Happy New Year. Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. Took a few days off, about a week, um, with the holidays, and really had my mind on other things. But wanted to start the new year with some thoughts. Novel thought about how to solve the nation's biggest problems, the biggest problem this nation has. I'm going to give you some hypotheticals. Corporation ABC, a leader in technology industry, leader in technology, has just hired uh, Jacqueline Smith as their new CEO. The University of Phoenix, in an effort to fill their post for the vacant chairman of the board, has hired Walter Johnson as the new chairman. The New York Yankees have just hired their new AAA manager, and uh, Mr. Jeffrey Garcia. The nominee for Vice President of the United States is Mr. John Williams. What what is missing there? I'll tell you what's missing there is the weapon that has been used to divide this country. Everyone has a label. Instead of American, we're an American. Everyone is the African American, the female, the gay, the LGBTQ, the Native American. That is the problem of this country. And then laws that are clamored for and enacted by PC politicians looking for votes that further divide. Laws that go on the books to protect minorities, laws that go on the books to protect gender, laws that go on the book to mandate, require certain things. The only laws that should exist in this country are the laws that will govern Americans, all Americans. That's all this is. We're all Americans. And the continual racism, the continual prejudice, bigotry, misogyny that is used as a weapon in this country, and mostly by the liberal left, although the conservatives use it as well, but mostly by the liberal left, is a weapon to benefit those that use the weapon, not any of us. We're all acceptable collateral damage. Don't forget that. Try what I just said. Put that into play in 2021. I know it's not going to happen, but put it into play in 2021. See how quickly all this division, all this rancor, all this anger and hatred disappears. No more identifying the person's name, position, and they were hired because they were the most qualified. That's it. Fixes everything. I dare you. All right. Georgia, runoffs in the Senate. Farce, travesty. Um, the mandate that we're facing right now in Georgia is a free-for-all. Anyone that can walk and chew gum can come in and vote. There's no verifications of anything. Stacey Abrams' sister, a judge, I don't know if you saw, there was a lawsuit to try to clean up some of the voter rolls from people who had left the state, who were supposed to be taken off the voter rolls, and the Democrats came in and said it was not fair. It shouldn't be done. It was put before a judge. That judge is Stacey Abrams' sister, and she's the one who's leading the drive to enroll every single Democrat that she can find, bring them out from under rocks to try to control the Senate by rigging the vote in Georgia. So you see there uh, the fraudulent attempts and nature of the beast. Uh, Nothing is off limits. If you're supposed to be purged from the voter rolls because you don't live there any longer, or you're not eligible to vote, or you've moved districts, or you no longer live in the state, person's passed away, whatever it may be, they should be purged and should not be allowed to vote. But obviously, that's not in the best interest of those that want this thing to go a certain way. So we have that. Now we hear that there's 11 Republican legislators who are going to contest the vote, the electoral college decision on January 6th. And Ted Cruz leading the charge. They want to implement basically what has precedent, has happened historically in the election of 1877, a panel to investigate the reported irregularities and fraud that occurred. There was fraud. There was fraud because Bill Barr said there was fraud, the Attorney General, that the left keeps quoting as saying Trump's own Attorney General dismissed the charge. No, he didn't. He said there was absolutely voter fraud. He just said he himself, he was not aware. He did not see enough to overturn the election. And I've already gone on this one with you. If there was voter fraud, the election's no good. One incident of voter fraud makes it a tainted election. And to come out and admit that there was voter fraud and then to say we're not going to do anything about it, it's unconstitutional. And by the way, I blame most of the problems that we're having right now with anyone hearing Trump's arguments about the election on Trump and his legal team. You don't overcharge a case. If your case as a prosecutor is for second-degree murder, you don't charge first-degree murder. The only charge that should have come forth on this election should have been votes were counted after the polls closed, after the deadline, votes should have been allowed to be counted. That's the only claim that should have been made. That's the only issue that should have been brought to the table. And I assure you, the Supreme Court would have heard it. Because COVID or no COVID, no matter what happens, a state cannot arbitrarily decide without amending their constitution to extend the deadlines for voting on the fly. This has to be decided, amend the constitution of the state, and move forward based on that. That was not done. That was unconstitutional. That should have been the only claim. Those should have been the only votes that should have been pursued to be reviewed and thrown out. And by adding all the extra fluff that the Trump team did, they basically sealed their own fate. So I think that was a huge mistake. Joe Biden as president is a scary thought. Joe Biden as president is probably one of the worst things that could happen to this country at this point in time. The agenda of Joe Biden is clear. It is a third Obama administration, an administration of corruption, an administration of incompetence, an administration of self-serving, politically correct, swamp-dwelling politicians whose careers have resulted in absolutely no accomplishments or achievements. That sums up Joe Biden's 47 years. And now we listen. We listen to the lies that have been perpetrated on this country. The Trump economy, it only helped the rich. A lie. The Trump economy was the best economy to grow the wealth of minorities that this country's ever had. The best economy for employment for minorities. The best economy for wage parity that this country's ever had. The best economy for minority home ownership that this country's ever had. The best economy for minority GDP growth that this country's ever had. The only thing that stopped the Trump economy was the Kung flu, the China flu. That's the only thing that stopped the Trump economy. And when it came about, instead of handling it like it should have been handled, which is no shutdowns, no lockdowns, okay? Instead of handling it the way it should have been handled, keep the country moving forward with precaution, obviously, for people with comorbidities and people at risk, okay? What was done? The left took it and made it a weapon and shot you and your family with that weapon. Your kids have been out of school for a year. They're not learning. It's a joke. Suicide rates among teenagers up 50% in 2020. Depression, drug overdoses, psychological damage to the elderly. All this has been deemed acceptable collateral damage in order to achieve the goal of eliminating Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Schiff, Nadler, Cuomo, de Blasio, Newsom, okay? To name a few, have taken advantage of this situation, have shut down the country until it says uncle, until it says I give up, until it implodes. Nancy Pelosi said as much when asked why she had held up the stimulus, and she said it was because of the Trump president. They said, why did you all of a sudden now accept $900 billion when you had $1.8 trillion? She said, it's a new president. That says it all. We're surrounded by swamp dwellers, and they're coming back. This is a very dangerous time. The ignorance of the American voter, based on the fact that they were not informed because the media did not allow them to hear the truth or the news or update as to what was going on. You've seen the polls, different polls, 15 to 25%. I've seen varying figures of Biden voters who said had they known about Operation Warp Speed, they wouldn't have voted for Biden. Those are independent polls, not right-wing polls. They would not have voted for Biden. Warp Speed is the greatest accomplishment in this country since the polio vaccine. What Trump did, they laughed at him in January when he said we're going to have a vaccine before the year end. They laughed at him. They said it would take a miracle, a medical miracle. When he came out in August and said that the vaccine would come out in late November. The press, through the statements of his uh, advisors, his COVID advisors, who said they were contradicting what Trump was saying. And Trump said, we will have it by the end of the year, by the end of November, beginning of December. They told him, your advisors say no. He said, there must be a misunderstanding. We will have it by the end of the year. They laughed at him. They scoffed at him. They said it's impossible. The fraud, Fauci, the fraud. He is a fraud. He has as much blood on his hands as anybody in this thing. Okay? Said it was not good. The best case scenario was 12 to 18 months in the summer. Okay? That was Fauci. Trump held firm. Because you know why? He's not a swamp dweller, he's not a politician, and he doesn't take excuses. He said, we will have the vaccine. Not only do we have a vaccine, we have several vaccines with 95+% efficacy. That is Donald Trump. Every life that gets saved with that vaccine, thank you, Donald Trump. The left is not going to be able to erase that. They're not going to be able to erase the economy that Trump created. And now we see the disgraceful left, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, coming out and saying how they are going to make America the manufacturer, the supply chain manufacturer for this country once again, bring jobs back. The jobs that left this country were under Obama, Biden. When they laughed at Trump when he said he was going to bring manufacturing back, they said the world, the globalization, that's not what America's role is. America's role is a service economy. Manufacturing will be done elsewhere. All our jobs left. That was Biden. That was Obama. That was an administration of incompetent, in over their heads people who had no business being elected president once, let alone twice. We know why Obama got elected president, okay? It's very apparent because he obviously was in over his head. Joe Biden is clueless. He's brain dead. When the impeachment was going on, Nancy Pelosi was chomping at the bit, waiting for John Bolton's book to come out so that it would bury Trump, because Bolton's book was going to bury Trump. I read the book, and yeah, he's not a Trump fan, but I'll tell you who he's not a fan of either: Obama and Biden. He tells you, Obama and Biden, O'Biden as I call him, are the reason that Iran didn't go bankrupt. He funded terrorism. They funded terrorism. They grew China. They grew the China economy like it's never grown before. They took our supply chain and gave it to the Chinese. Obama, Biden. And now all of a sudden Joe Biden, oh, we're bringing it back. Kamala Harris, we're bringing it back. They are full of it. And you know what? It's an insult to you. It's an insult to anyone that voted for this joker, because they're saying that you're so, they believe that you're so ignorant and you're so foolish that you believe what they tell you, even though it flies in the face of the facts. There's no way Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I don't think Joe Biden elicits any type of enthusiasm or response from voters. For him to have set the record of number of votes that he did, I don't buy it. Sorry, I don't buy it. The United States of America has been defrauded. Every piece of history, all our elections are now questioned by our enemies because of what has happened in 2020. Everything we've said and everything that we've done in this election is now being viewed as a manifestation of fraud. This was not an election that was, as stated, picture perfect. This was an election that was manipulated. This is an election that was the mechanics of the operation itself, of the election itself, were kept under wraps, kept away from the American people, and all evidence destroyed. I have no doubt, that Donald Trump won this election. I have no doubt. But I do say that it's Trump and his team's own fault that this election has not been overturned because of what I discussed earlier. They have no one to blame but themselves. Moving forward, we need to be sure that Georgia does not go in the hands of the Democrats. If this country falls in the hands, if the Senate falls in Democrat control, it's going to be a long 2 years. I really believe it's going to be a long 2 years. I still hold out some hope because I think there's enough centrist Democrats to understand that America needs to stay capitalist, that America is a democracy, and that America needs to protect all of its citizens, not just those who go out and pillage and burn and loot. America needs to protect everyone. I think the defund the police really identified to those centrist Democrats that that platform will never work. I have no doubt that the midterm elections in 2022 will be Republican landslide. And the Republicans will control both houses. In the interim, we've got to tread water. And we've got to keep the likes of Kamala, AOC, Bernie, repulsive human being, out of the way. I think we've got a shot. Even like I said, even if the elections in Georgia are as rigged as the presidential election was, the Senate election was as rigged, which is being done that way. Although there's more eyes on it right now, so hopefully it's a little more difficult. But they're rigging it. I think that there's enough centrist Democrats to control the stupidity of the left. Having said that, I think that Tuesday is still important. Would love to see the Republicans take both seats. And I would like to see the vote for the electoral votes, the ratification. I would like to see at least some focus on the claim. I would like to see at least an indication that the integrity of the United States of America's election is first and foremost, no matter whose toes it steps on. And I would like to see a Democrat or two, okay, say, we cannot accept any voter fraud. And the fact that Bill Barr said there was voter fraud is disturbing and is a clear sign that what occurred November 3rd was anything but a free and fair election. Okay, we are looking forward to 2021, to have a good year. We're not going to allow our liberties and our freedoms to be infringed upon or in any way taken away by the left. And remember the saying, don't tread on me. Thank you.